Hello, everybody. This is a very special episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies. Jim and I, and by Jim and I mean I, ran into some technical difficulties when we did the live stream on Sunday night. I had Jim on mute for not 30 seconds, and we missed a bon mot or two, but literally 10 minutes at a time. I even worse, I muted myself at least 2 minutes, and that's just wrong. So what we're going to do is, what Jim and I agreed to do is we're actually going to basically live to tape our show. And we may refer to things that had come up in the chat. And if we have got to link anything, or we'll do frame grabs or whatever, we'll put that down. We'll put a link to that in the pinned comment. Otherwise, I think that's about it. I want to thank all the folks that were in our chat for their patience. That's Richard L. Comes to mind, Katie Fowler, of course, and our good fellow YouTubers, fellow YouTube Film Beat types at Dragon Movie Guy and Cody from the Brockup side. So it was great to see DMG and Cody, and they made some excellent comments regarding our movie, the movie we're talking about today. And without further ado, here's an abbreviated version of our opening credit sequence.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the special edition of it that we're doing live to tape. And of course, we're going to be talking about The Batman, or Vengeance, or Bop-O-Matic Trouble. Who is this man? The Batman is the latest incarnation. Here's the log line from IMDb. A sadistic killer going by the name of the Riddler begins murdering key political figures in Gotham while taunting the rich and powerful, including Bruce Wayne. Of course, his alter ego, Batman, is forced to investigate the city's hidden corruption and question his family's involvement. It's directed by Matt Reeves. Interesting note there, he and J.J. Abrams created Felicity. Of course, he went on to do other things, including wrote and directed Cloverfield and a number of other big budget Hollywood movies. It was written by Matt Reeves and Peter Craig. It stars Robert Pattinson in the eponymous role, Zoe Kravitz as Catwoman / Selena Kyle, Paul Dano in the Riddler role, and Jeffrey Wright as Gordon. I think he's not Commissioner Gordon in this film. He's lieutenant or detective. I don't know. It also stars John Turturro, Peter Sarsgaard, Andy Serkis, and Colin Farrell. As far as the social nutrition checklist goes, would it? Oh my goodness. Well, I'm basically giving it all the way there. Yeah, it scored 25%. No way would it earn a reframe stamp. It was union made. And as far as the Bechdel test goes, no. Although we do see a conversation, I don't think we're actually, it's not a scene where two women are talking to each other. There still has to be the Batman involved. And is it a class-conscious film? Although there were a couple of highlights, no. I would argue it is not. And so, with that out of the way, I want to, I think it's time to bring on my co-host, the man with the most, Mr. Mr. Jim Chaboyko. How you doing, my friend?
Good, but Selena had an overdue bill. Does that count as class consciousness?
I'm actually gonna.
Past due.
You know what? I was a little more down. I still think this is a right-wing film, Jim, and we'll get into the why on that in part because we've been asked in comments on our parking lot reaction and from our, let's say, less than stellar attempt on Sunday night. But that I've softened my opinion on the class consciousness a bit. It's still a fail, but before we get into it, Jim, I believe you had asked me last time if we had any mail.
Sorry, I missed my cue. Rob, have we had any mail lately?
You know what, Jim? As a matter of fact, we do have mail. Let me go root in the mailbag. Sorry, I should be going this way. Yeah, we did get some mail. This is interesting, actually. A longtime subscriber, Ledger Dino Golf. I'm going to refer to him as LDG from now on because I love the letters. LDG had commented in the last few weeks, both on our The King's Man video and on our from way back when running Universal video when there was talk about Universal changing hands, ownership hands, or chief executive hands. I can't remember. Anyway, LDG made a couple of comments. The first one here, he says, I find it ironic Disney/Fox didn't sell the international distribution rights to The King's Man to Netflix for half the film's budget, considering Netflix technically owns the source material via Miller World. Now, one of the reasons I'm bringing this up, Jim, is that I replied to this comment because I thought it was kind of interesting. I said, I did not know that, and I will bring that up on the show that week.
Post haste.
Thank you. Post haste. In the end, and this will lead to our next segment shortly, our next news segment. I did not, because that was also the time we did Nobody, and people on Twitter were calling me mean names because I had a difference of opinion on a Lord of the Rings subject than some other folks on Twitter.
Tolkien would be proud.
He would indeed. But I think this is the best part, though. And so this is like literally from Sunday. And did you bring it up? Yeah. I said, I did not, but I'm gonna. I even said, yeah, I was being called names on Twitter, so that took precedence. Jim, I am. I first of all, let's go back to the actual comment. What do you think about what LDG is saying? I just thought it was kind of interesting that Netflix owns the original rights. I thought that was kind of neat.
You know, this kind of the business news and how complicated it's all getting is sort of making my head spin. Disney's not able to, I think, show one of their movies. Is it that Anastasia one or something? Not because of the Russia content, but because it's a battle with some other studio. So yeah, I find
some other property rights holder.
So this guy seems to. The other comment you're going to read too. I was like, boy, there should be like some movie studio playoff pool that he should enter because he's got some interesting ideas. But
I'm wondering, do we have LDG on just to talk about some of that stuff? Do we do like a special sometime in the future? That's a great point. Yeah, and that does lead to our third comment or our second our third comment from LDG, and that was way back when. I want to say back in the spring of 2021, May, June 2021, he says, trade Legendary Pictures a 10% equity stake in Jurassic Park, Dominion, in exchange for Legendary giving Universal the worldwide except China distribution rights to Dune Part 2. Now, of course, LDG made the comment after the initial success of Dune, and that it got the second Part 2 was greenlit. The original video he's commenting on is from months ago, but I also thought this was an interesting comment, but it kind of interesting.
Yeah.
All right, now that we've done that, Jim, let's get back to the movie at hand.
The Batman.
The Batman. We usually do a quick review. That said, because folks, sorry everybody, totally kind of screwing the pooch here. Because normally what we do is a quick review, but we did do a parking lot reaction, which I will link probably somewhere over here. So today we're going to be just jumping right into what do we call it again? Oh, right, the spoiler zone. And the craft. Jim, you had made some great comments Sunday night. If you could remember even half of them,
sure,
lay them down now.
Well, I think we started off because on the quick review, it's like a two-parter. In the quick review, I know you were talking, and I agreed with you.
You mean the parking lot reaction?
Yeah. What did I say?
Quick review.
Did I say? Oh yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
sorry.
Jim,
we were
take it away.
Go ahead. We were talking about the car chase in the parking lot review a little bit, and it was a little bit incoherent. Like, at times you didn't know exactly where someone was in relation to the other person. There was a lot of use of semi trailers, and that sort of cut off. He was basically the Batman was chasing the Penguin, and the Penguin was trying to get away and creating accidents and that sort of thing. So, whereas visually it was sort of confusing, I found that the sound design, particularly, that was one of the neater parts of the movie, was each car had its own sort of aural signature, and that's aural, AURUL. Anyway, and they each sounded differently, basically.
Its own audio signature.
Yes,
that'll
exactly.
be a little easier.
And the sound design for that scene was great. And at one point, the Penguin hit a bunch of bollards, like those little tubes that separate the lanes at some point. And there's a sort of a sound.
Yeah.
I thought, almost adding a musical option to it, or a sense of musicality to this car chase. And it was kind of neat, I thought, and a lot of thought had been put into that. So that was one of the aspects of craft. We talked a little bit about...
What did you think about the performances?
Performances were... I quite liked them. I think Jeffrey Wright, he's one of those guys, every once in a while, every 5 years or so, I'm like, this guy should be in everything, whether it was Jamie McAvoy at the start of his career or what have you. And so Jeffrey Wright, I really liked. I usually find him pretty compelling. I did like Robert Pattinson. It's a heavy movie. He's sort of an emo guy in it, but it sounds sort of like I'm going to contradict myself, but for such heaviness, he was fairly light on his feet in delivering that character. Like I believed him. I believed that he was sort of in an odd place, not in a great place.
He wasn't Hayden Christensen in the second and third of the prequels in Star Wars, where it seemed it was so thick, whether it be
Yeah.
that a performance or direction thing, came out to the same kind of whiny teenager. You never felt that with Pattinson's performance in this. I
No.
agree completely.
And then and there was with Ben Affleck, there was a heaviness there too, like almost like uh, just a heaviness. I'll keep it at
Yeah.
that. But I felt Pattinson. I believed his doubt. I believed his troubled quality. I believed what he was going through. Zoe Kravitz, always interesting. Her sort of her slinkiness was a little much, but it's the Catwoman. You can't take a day off from that, I guess, and throw on a pair of Oshkosh bagosh overalls or whatever. And I was gonna, I think I had pointed out yesterday is that Colin Farrell did a great job with all the prosthetic makeup and that sort of thing, but I found the Penguin as unrecognizable as Colin Farrell. I'm not sure why they even used the Penguin because they've taken away, even the movie theater studio took away his smoking habit. So he turns from this Roger Stone like dandy to a kind of like a, hey, I'm walking here kind of Brooklyn guy. Somebody on Twitter said he was basically doing De Niro from The Untouchables, but which is just kind of a fun comment. And it wasn't bad. I'm not sure of the function of the Penguin at this point. And then what else? Paul Dano, of course, he was pretty spooky, especially in the third act when he's been revealed and his mask comes off, and he's genuinely seems to be losing it in Arkham Asylum. It wasn't a theatrical "I'm losing it," but it was like like the picture of the Scream almost, that kind of thing.
Do you want to?
How about you?
No, I want to probe you a bit more on the look of the thing, and that from cinematography to the production design, the monsoon season that is Gotham. Although I believe Christian or not Christian. Wasn't Christian Bale. I believe Cody Brock was saying it's at least in the video games, it's always raining. Like it's like there's a thing about in the Dark Knight in the graphic novels, and that rain is a regular thing. But it's just, boy, it rained a lot in Gotham. But back to the look. What did you think of the production design and of the cinematography? Because those go so hand in hand, eh? Even the costumes in that,
Yeah, I mean, we were, and I think you had mentioned sort of that it was almost like a child of David Fincher and Zack Snyder.
I think the tone and everything is, Reeves took the best in some ways the best of both Fincher and Schneider. But I'll get into that more later.
Sure, yeah.
Because I think tone really, and a number of things. But sorry, I'm interrupting, Jim.
No, it's just I and I bought the look. I bought the look of the city. I bought the sort of this kind of weird cross section of Chicago and New York with it, like Chicago with a seawall kind of thing. That's not a crack. I mean, it seemed to be an amalgam of several different things. The rain is, obviously a big part of it because it was constantly raining, but
and heavy rain
and heavy rain, yeah, and just with most of it being shot at night. There's not a lot of daytime scenes, I don't think.
No.
He's Batman for a lot of the movie. You don't often you see him, I'd say he's Batman more than 50%. I didn't count, but
okay.
But in terms of the look, there's some really amazing shots. The at the end of the car chase, Oswald Cobblepot is basically looking at him upside down, and this bat guy is sort of, with the flames behind him with his cape, and that's a pretty arresting image, especially since he's so vulnerable. But for me, the other two sort of signature shots, and I would not be surprised if future movie posters or Italian movie posters or whatever showed this, but basically the red flare in the
Oh.
flooded stadium at the end when he's sort of guiding people or even approaching people, and with just the a good use of color in this instance. I thought those were really, really strong, memorable images, in particular from this one. But I really did buy it. I really did buy the look of it, the production design. The Riddler's apartment felt like the Riddler's apartment should have looked, messy and kind of,
Conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Fincher villain from Seven.
Yeah, exactly. And none of it
and some of his victims.
Sometimes you watch old Batman movies and it feels like that big English soundstage that they seem to film all these big movies on, and I didn't get that feeling at all. I bought everything.
You bought that you were in a real space. Myself, coming back to that dark tone that they're setting, and this will lead into the story and even some of the themes and everything. It's something I'm interested in seeing the movie again. Maybe not in the big screen, but I'm interested in seeing the movie again to kind of get a bit more of an idea of how they're using the cinematography and the production design and the sound design to support not just story beats and just to be engaging, because it's such a long movie, but I'm never bored. How they were using that to support the direction they were going in. I don't, as far as the craft of the thing, other than the one, and it's noteworthy because it's the one, I felt all the action was pretty well done, except for the car chase, where I'm like, I mean, I think a number of reasons why car chases are starting to be shot the way they are is to put you in the car where you feel like you can't see anything. It's just like when you're on a fast highway, you feel like you're tight and in a box and you don't know what's happening behind you and you're trying to pay attention in front. And it can be, especially on a fast highway, you're on the Autobahn or something, like you really are forever kind of trying to check where you are in space. I think though, for us, unless it's a movie all about driving, I'm thinking of Baby Driver and even Baby Driver, that did a great job of giving you his experience but still kind of giving you enough of a wide shot to kind of go, this is where we're at. This is where we are in the chase. We started here. We're going in this direction. So yeah, I like that was my only criticism as far as the editing and the shooting, and that was it's like I want to know where I'm at. That took me out of the movie. But yeah, back to some of the shots you're referring to, and I'm saving my comment for the end scene because that's all part of because some of these scenes are super Snyder-esque. Like you have this weird mix of some of these shots, and the set design is very David Fincher. And I saw Seven, but I even saw hints of I mentioned it the other day. So I saw Seven in this. I saw
Fight Club.
Fight Club. I even though hints of the girl with the dragon tattoo. But in other shots, it's like that's a Schneider shot. But I'll save those which most impressed me for comments when we're talking about story and even into theme and meaning. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at on that. Let's
two more comments. I just wanted to make.
Time is ticking, but yes,
sure.
Go ahead.
Another interesting shot, a little bit of suspension of disbelief, is when Batman's in a darkened tunnel being shot with. It's in the trailer. He's being shot in darkness, so it's almost like a strobe effect, and you just see him come up the tunnel. That's another good one. Also, going to mention the music, the use of Nirvana something in the
Yeah.
way I
Right.
quite enjoyed that as sort of bookmarking the whole movie. But
No, you
anyway,
got a point there. Okay, let's move forward. But before we move forward, I'm going to shamelessly beg anyone who's watching for a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and then of course if you could ring that notification bell, that we would appreciate that. Look at that sound practical effects
got it in
in
the holster up
homage
there.
to Matt Reeves, who did a lot of practical effects for this movie.
It's the Dogma 95 approach. Everything natural light,
Natural light
natural bell.
versus me, where it's like, oh no, there's I've got audio control of my lighting. Okay, moving forward, let's talk about story, and with your permission, Jim, I'll start us off here.
Certainly.
It's a long movie, and it's not a slog, which is impressive, especially because especially dark, moody films like this can be, you're like, oh, are we ever going to get out of here? I'm depressed now. I got to go talk to my therapist. But I think, though, with this flick, the one thing I appreciated the fact that we're back to Batman's roots as a crime fighter, as a detective, and there's kind of a hard-boiled aspect, a film noir aspect to the story, which has some reference to some of the comics, and even like in its original inception. So I liked that. I liked seeing that. I did think, though, and we are folks in the spoiler zone, there were a couple of things where I'm like, well, I have seen this movie, though. Oh, okay, corruption, developers, the mob, the vibe, and this starts in the production design, but really lean into it in the story. It's like I feel like I'm in a Fincher Schneider version of Mean Streets or Taxi Driver. Just the city crumbling under the weight of corruption and evildoers. And of course, the family's going to be involved in some way. And it's not just the log line, it's telegraphed early. And it's like, okay, yeah, I know where we're going. And, and I thought story-wise, they really pulled their punch. They could have done something super cool with the whole idea of Bruce Wayne's dad. What is his name?
Thomas.
Thomas, thank you. Thomas Wayne, doing it, they do that. He was a good man who did a wrong thing. And it's like, it's like, it very much, and this is why I can't call it a class conscious film, that police like to use the language, you're a one-time offender versus you're a criminal. And it's always, in this film, it's about poor people being, oh yeah, you're a hoodlum. It's a core, whereas, oh, this rich, good man who did all these good works as a rich man, well, he made a mistake. He had somebody killed, for Christ's sakes. And
well, he wasn't spray painting anything.
And I know I kind of sound like I'm veering into meaning, but my criticism of the story here is that was their opportunity to go, okay, I know we're bringing you here, but we're going to turn it on its head. Thomas Wayne was deeply corrupt. Or maybe it was the Arkham family, because his mom, Martha Arkham of Arkham Asylum, maybe they weren't just crazy. They were like a mob family or something. Like, you could have something where all of a sudden Bruce Wayne has to, it's not, oh, my dad did this terrible thing, but he was a good man and he was going to fess up. And so I still get to have this image of my father as being a good man with a flaw, to, wow, I've got to totally redefine where I come from. Because we saw a bit of that story-wise in the arc of the goals of one of the minor antagonists slash ally. Antagonist become ally in Selina Kyle and her story and her arc. And so I think that would be my biggest criticism of the story. They could have taken a bigger swing and made it really interesting, and they didn't. And so they gave me by the end of it, it's like, well, this is pretty much what I was expecting as far as the mystery goes. That said, it's something that Cody said in the comments when we were talking about this on live. He's absolutely right. It was interesting to see him solving a crime, getting clues, doing that kind of stuff, which I think you said it the other night. We haven't seen in superhero movies in maybe forever. Like it very much rooted in the background in the history of this character and the history of a lot of comic books. I vaguely remember the black and white TV show of Superman was totally like he was always related to the police. And so it was a lot more about solving crimes and getting bad guys off the streets as opposed to existential threats to the existence of Earth, you know?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was a good story choice. I don't know. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly was different. At times, I was sort of worried that it would veer off into Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn, walking around and shaking people down for info. But it didn't reach that kind of level. But yeah, I mean, I read a comment today is that you see how intelligent he is. With this iteration of Batman is that he's sort of doing the work and he's, literally solving the puzzles. Interesting.
And none of them are side quests. I like your reference about Qui-Gon, like the original Phantom Menace, where they all felt like now I have to go get this part. Now we have to win this race just to get off a planet.
You need one wrench and it's only found on this planet. Yeah. What? Oh, no.
Yeah, like it's not, they weren't obstacles for obstacles' sake. They were, no, this is important, and it keeps heightening the conflict and the psychological conflict for the characters and everything. You're absolutely right. Mm-hmm. Boy, I'm coming away from this conversation being more impressed with the movie than I maybe initially was.
Yeah,
I might have to upgrade my pretty good to good.
Yeah. It's interesting how often that does happen. But for me, in terms of story, and when I was talking about Penguin earlier, that was a bit veering into story. But there's a little bit of pulling the punch in other ways too. I think we discussed. I think you brought it up even that there's this sort of question about Selina Kyle and Anna, her Russian friend,
right?
And it's pretty much
who she kept referring to baby,
and she's super concerned about her, almost not so much in a friend way, but in a closer way. And it was almost like they were, okay, no smoking for the Penguin. They almost had one of the characters almost drove drunk, but he didn't. I was thinking to myself, I wonder if he's going to pull away.
Right, the DA.
The DA. But someone got to him, and then
held him until he sobered up before he drove into a church. Full of people.
Not being allowed to be bisexual or showing any kind of
like queer, like a member of the LGBTQ2S community.
And so I brought up the other thing that we see it a lot in Disney movies. We see it sometimes in superhero stories, and where there's one like a bad character, an antagonist. And he's basically been sentenced by the writers of the movie. This is a bad person. He's going to get justice. In this case, it was the gangster Falcone. They arrested
played by
him.
John Turturro. In an understated, not super evil. Like he was light in his treatment.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay, sorry, quick back
No,
praise to John
I was
Turturro's performance.
well, and it's funny too because he's done a lot of friendly guy roles recently, or sort of like not menacing like he used to be. But so they take his character, they have him arrested, and they spend a lot of effort. The hero spends a lot of effort saying, "Oh, we're not gonna kill him. We're not gonna administer our style of justice. We're gonna do this the usual way." And then the writers of the story go ahead and the character gets
And
killed in
bump
some
him
other
off.
way. In this case, and then you brought it
Yeah.
up, in this case, it fits because it was bringing Falcone into the light as the Riddler had essentially asked or
And
riddled
what
Batman too.
and set up from the beginning.
Yeah,
Usually in those, and I agree with you, Jim. You know what? This could have been that kind of a deus ex, having your cake and
yeah,
eating it and having it.
yeah.
Here it's like, no, it was set up from the beginning. That was all part of Riddler's plan, and I think that's why it worked. And that even there, Batman is losing. He's like,
Yeah.
but I didn't want this to happen. This is, and there he was. He was always like, to be that close to your nemesis,
Yeah.
the big antagonist. And I think I did not feel ripped off then. I was like, oh,
No.
good. Yeah, it was pretty good. All right.
And
Keep
and
moving.
it fit that absolving the hero thing, and at the same time got
Mhm.
rid of a poisonous
Yeah.
character. As soon as he said the things that are up here die with me, I thought, uh-oh. Set the timer. But
I didn't even catch that play. I was more like, what do you, I think you've basically,
yeah.
what else do you have to say?
I think they had him in cuffs at that point,
Yeah.
and they were marching him out. But anyway,
I do think I want to add one more quick thing before we move
Sure.
on to meaning, which we should be doing shortly because we don't have a lot of time left, is the male gaze. And there is a moment which could have otherwise been, you could almost say, there's Batman spying on Selina Kyle. And this is where he discovers she's the Catwoman, although I don't think he thinks of her that way. It's just obviously there's more to her than she is revealed as someone more than just a, hot waitress in a mob bar. And you see her in her he's spying on her in her apartment, and her and Annika are in there, and you get another trope, girlfriend in the fridge. Of course, this woman is killed. We do see her body later. And again, it is in a way just to provide motivation for Selina Kyle's character. It is a girlfriend in the fridge. And I think more and more, Jim, did the studio say, get rid of the cigarettes and she's not gay? Did they end up doing reshoots and tweaking in ADR some of the stuff where it's like, okay, well, can we leave it ambiguous? And she'll refer to friend, or how about that? Some negotiation. But and then there's that moment where he's spying on her, and you get a great shot of Zoe Kravitz ASS for no other reason than, hey, let's gawk at her. You know what? Like, it's not enough that we see her in a skin tight bodysuit with a low cut top. We've got to, we got to get her in her underwear. And that was like kind of, come on, guys. It's 2022.
Yeah.
And how does this advance the story or reveal character? Do anything? None of it. There's no purpose for that shot. None whatsoever.
That sexy girl, turns out she's sexy.
Yes.
I don't know.
No, that's great. Okay. Let's move into meaning.
Sure.
And Jim, do you want to start? Let me ask you this question.
Sure.
From the filmmaker's perspective, what do you think they're saying with this movie? What are some of the themes they are examining?
Well, I think the biggest one, the most obvious one, is that role of vengeance and how corrosive it can be.
Vengeance.
And the difference between vengeance and justice. Again, that sort of fits in with
Yeah.
the arresting of Falcone. They have another bad cop that they were threatening to push off, or that one of the characters was threatening to push off a ledge that they ultimately didn't. But it's that he even calls himself Vengeance. I believe it. Who are you?
Vengeance.
I'm Vengeance. And at the end of the movie, that's bookmarked by one of the Riddler's crew, Riddler's convoy of
Yeah.
similarly dressed people who gets caught,
Yeah.
and Batman sort of just goes ham on him, and they take off the mask and broken nose and everything, and they say, "Who are you even?" And he goes, "I'm Vengeance." And then
Yeah.
Pattinson's Batman goes, "Ugh," and sort of realizes. And then I think after that they show him helping with the rescue efforts, and there's a monologue about how he has to be better, how he has to be
Yeah.
more, how he has to change.
And the first time
I
we
kind of
even
bought it.
see a hint of the sun.
Yes, yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
point. Yeah,
we
the
see a hint of
daytime,
the
yeah, the
sun. It's
dawn, right?
yeah. No,
Yeah,
and even as they're getting closer to solving the story, solving the mystery, in what was a great scene, and it took Cody in the chat from the Brock up side, him to make a point, and I think DMG also made a point in the chat, was one of the more entertaining and just light in what was otherwise not a lot of light, fun stuff. But
mhm.
when the Penguin is making fun of Wright and Gordon and the Batman on
Mhm.
how they don't understand Spanish and the difference between
Yes,
el and la,
yeah.
when they're trying to, and there we're getting closer to the dawn, you know.
Mhm.
In some ways the
Somebody,
key action happens all in one night. And even then you think about the theme of water washing away, and what
mhm.
is it going to wash away, right?
The other thing about water and
Sin.
all the
Sin,
yeah,
Jim, I mean.
the rain and water. I mean, to take it a little bit different direction, I
Yeah.
remember uh, Mr. Ilchina in grade 6
Mm,
science, and he would come up, and he was Czech, I think, or something. He said,
was it
"What is the
grade
most?"
6 or maybe grade 10?
It was junior high for me.
Oh,
Or maybe it was
okay.
grade 10. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he was, "What is the most corrosive element in the world, liquid in all the world?" And we all said, acid. We were coming up with different
Yeah.
forms of acid. But he said, "No, it's water."
The
And
universal solvent.
yeah,
Same guy, probably same high, it's Dakota Collegiate, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. A
yeah.
brief,
So,
Mr. Olchina, yes.
so maybe the same. Props to him. I still remember it
Yeah,
90 years later. But
the the
yeah,
universal solvent, water.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
What
But yeah,
what about the idea of legacy? Because that was something the Riddler
yes.
kind of hammers on, and the idea of sins, and again coming back to sin and the legacies of sin, visiting the sins of the father onto the son, and you've got a son who benefits and he is hammered about his legacy. His father, his parents were great philanthropists. Why aren't you
Mhm.
being a great philanthropist? We need real change, as symbolized by the mayoral candidate, something other Real,
Yeah.
a great
Cor-
Ocasio-Cortez stand-in, and even the name, like, what are you doing for real change? What do you, and how he would look at the other, not orphan, but not an orphan like Bruce Wayne or even the Riddler, Paul Dano's character, but still his father killed with a problematic past now. His dad was
Mhm.
corrupt or had been corrupted.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot about the sins of the father in this,
Yeah.
and what it really means, and what Bruce Wayne is given. His legacy is, I mean, he's well known. People know his face. like he can show up at a place and they know, the bouncers let him into the poor twin bouncers let him into the club
Oh, yeah.
because they recognized him, and he's known throughout the city as
A
generally
sign
rich guy.
of one of the great families of the city, a sign of two great families of the city with their shit named on the Wayne Terminal, the Arkham Asylum, these families' legacies of wealth and privilege, and on occasion an occasional philanthropy. Although apparently that asylum is out of the 19th century, much like you referred
Yes.
to, Jim. The stories of being an orphan child are downright Dickensian.
The workhouse, the great Gotham workhouse. The rats were nibbling on our fingers. When in reality, it would be bad orderlies and lead paint
Abuse.
But
Yeah.
But,
Well, as we've learned, unless of course here from a Canadian perspective, a Canadian context, residential schools are a North American horror. But I do want to say, before we do have to move on, we got to tell you about the next movie, folks, and everything. And before we get to our does Matt Reeves pass or fail, I do want to say, and this is to answer DMG's question, perfectly fair question, in the and this goes to kind of the subtext of this movie and the subtext of superhero movies in general. I thought it was a right-wing film, and notwithstanding the fact that there's a couple of moments where at least it's almost like trying to be maybe I do have my head up my ass, a great line that had a lot of meaning in it, from Selena Kyle, basically saying, I don't care about all these rich and powerful people who are dying. Why does no one care about my friend Annika, the dead girlfriend in the fridge? And that was a great moment. And another great moment, I think it was either Cody or DMG, somebody in the chat pointed out, where Selena Kyle says, when the character is right. Only a rich person would say, yeah, you had choices. You made your choices. And she's like, only a rich. You must have, I don't know who you are, but you must have grew up rich, because that's what rich people say. And it was bang on. So there's these moments of self-awareness, I think, but it's still right-wing, and it's part of it is baked into the genre. They are superhero movies, even the fantastical ones we've seen over the last 20 years. They're still at their heart crime movies, where there's good and there's evil. And even in their reinterpretation of Thomas Wayne as having done a terrible deed, corrupted and got a guy killed, even though that wasn't his intention. He didn't mean it that way. I'm sorry, I didn't mean for you to die because of a direct result of my actions. That still comes down to the city needs to be saved. It needs to be saved by the good, white, rich people. Otherwise, and you have everyone else at the bottom, at the street level, living like it's London 1850. They haven't even figured out, the germ theory hasn't become accepted. You're getting cholera from the tap. It does. It has this, again, back to a Manichaean worldview of good and evil, and you need a good man to fight bad men. And then once in a while, they actually, instead of just beating bad people up, once in a while helping one of us peasants. And even then, it's a good middle class peasant. And so, I still think it's a right-wing film. And again, it's kind of cooked into the genre. And we haven't seen, where is the power of the dog for superhero movies? Maybe in The Boys. Kick-Ass has some, elements of questioning the assumptions of superhero films, but not in this one. So I think for that and a few other reasons we don't have time for today, still at its heart a right-wing film, but not as right as I may have initially written it off. Because yeah, there are moments, especially with Selena Kyle, and yes, they go off in different directions, but I think that's as much about it's metaphorical as well as they're going to physically different places.
She'll be
as they're
back.
both in there. Oh, of course she'll be back.
She'll be back.
But that they have a different worldview,
Mhm.
and yeah, a different approach to things. Because she did kick the guy who killed her friend, like
Mhm.
kicked him off, and it was Gordon and
Yes. Yeah.
you know, the
Zit.
the forces of law and order and the vigilante they ally with when they need a little extra help.
Yeah.
You know. All right. Folks, you know what? That's it for the meaning. We do want to talk about next week's show before we get into our final thoughts, and of course whether or not we thought Matt Reeves passed. Jim, I'm going to give it over to you. Why don't you tell us what we're watching this Sunday? What we're looking at this Sunday? That would be Sunday, March 13th.
And I think that's time change.
Yes,
the
13th.
time will have changed.
It is.
Just the
Yeah.
year. The
It
day
will not be
before
Central
anyway,
Standard
but-
Time. It'll be Central Daylight Time. You're right.
There we go.
Anyway,
There we go.
what are we talking
We
about?
will be looking at the even heavier The Atom Project. I'm just kidding. With
yeah, just gets darker.
oh my gosh,
Nothing
with
says moody like Ryan Reynolds.
Vancouver's own Ryan Reynolds, and he's doing all the talk shows this week, so look out for that. But yeah, that's the one upcoming.
It comes out Friday. That would be the 11th. Comes out Friday the 11th on Netflix. It is a Netflix original, made for Netflix, one of their bigger budget fare. I'm sure there's a $200 million dump truck of money they gave Ryan Reynolds because he's made a number of these now for them. We got this coming on, and that would be at 9:45 live. We'll be back live, 9:45 Central Daylight Time, UTC Coordinated Universal Time -5 now. Yeah, Sunday, March 13th. We'll be talking about this. I don't know. Is there anything else we want to? Oh,
couple of quick last thoughts.
well, wait.
Oh yeah. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, we got the whole the
Yeah,
end
let's
roll
not.
to do.
We've got.
Not too-
There's other things, Jim.
Yes.
Are we giving Matt Reeves a pass or a fail?
Yeah, I'll give him a pass. Yeah, it was interesting, and I'd watch it again. Actually, it's
yeah. I'm with you. I the more I think about it, the more we've talked about it. Yeah, I'm moving my estimate from pretty good to good, solid flick. I do. I look forward to seeing a movie that would score better than 25% on our social nutrition checklist. It's interesting since we started tracking that, Jim, I'm becoming a lot more aware of it's like, I wouldn't mind seeing it. Yeah. More characters that reflect our real world, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, still solid flick for what it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
All right.
You did a good job.
Okay, so now we'll move into final thoughts. Yes.
Okay.
Give us your
got
notes.
a bunch of them.
Quick notes.
Real quick, fiery lightning round. No ball, no fancy ball in this one. Love that.
Yes.
This one, I saw elements of Zelensky and the mayor. Coincidentally, of course.
Yeah.
I saw elements
in
of
the way she would stay. She was going to
Yes.
stay with the people.
Everyone's afraid. I'm going to stay. Elements of the trucker convoy and the Riddler, a little bit in the Riddler's followers. Evidently, the news is coming out today that Kravitz had tried out for this role in Nolan's 2012 one, but was deemed to be too urban. That just came out today. So that was the other one, and I think that was all of them. There's a few little nuggets that are coming out today on Twitter. Oh, Oscar Isaac may be in the next one. So, assuming there is.
For myself, it's really bugging the shit out of me, and we see this in these Batman movies specifically, how QAnon, like this idea of mayhem is always attached to what I would argue are kind of left-wing ideas. Like it's and when QAnon is another right-wing wackadoo conspiracy. It's deeply racist. It's and deeply supportive of the status quo, and a return to a fantasy past. So when you see these things, like it just bugs the living shit out of me, because no, these QAnon whack jobs are quite all right with any of this shit. It's anything that would actually say make a black person's life better. Then they come, oh well, we got to put a stop to that. Black person for president. Got to put a stop to that. I really just drives me nuts. Anyway, that's a bit of a hot take, I know, and I probably have to unpack that a bit better, but final thoughts. We're getting into overtime here. All right, folks. I think that's about it for Jim and I. For our first live to tape show. We'd love to hear what you guys thought of it in the comments, because there is no chat. Do you like the way we're doing this? Is this something that you'd like to see more of, less of? I don't know. The one great thing is we'd be able to I'll just publish it probably sometime later today, because we did it all live to tape, minimal editing. Let us know what you think, and we'll circle back. But meanwhile, yes, the next one is going to be live, our standard time, 9:45 Central Daylight Time, this Sunday. All right. Well, let's wave goodbye, Jim.
See you, folks.
Goodbye, everybody.